Thank you so much for staying with us. And we're moving to the major conversation, telling you that the federal government's student loan scheme has received 35,000 applications. And this is just 1 week after the portal went live. This, of course, is according to the managing director of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, Akitunde Soya, who said about 60,000 persons have registered on the education platform, the education loan platform. While explaining why not all registered persons on the platform have applied for the loan, Soya said the situation is owing to issues from schools. However, he assured that NELFUND is working to rectify the problem and make the application process seamless. The NELFUND chief also shed more light on the timeline of the student loan application. According to him, the application portal will be open to the public all year round. To have this conversation with us is Hassan Taiwo Soweto. He is an education rights activist. Good morning, Hassan. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good to have you join us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we went from kicking against the bill to the president telling us that it was going to go live by January 1st.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a bit of a delay, and we are at the point now where people are actually signing up. And I don't know if it's out of, I do not want to call it ignorance, because everybody has the freedom of choice to decide what they want to and what they do not want to do. But a couple of persons that I've interacted with both on and off social media seem to be excited about the student loan going live, and they are happy to apply. But however, I'd like to get your reaction to, first of all, the portal going live and the discrepancies. There's a lot of people have a lot of challenges. Some people are not able to access the dashboard. Some people, generally, how do you react?
I mean, nothing in this country comes easy. Even elections that have been part of our existence for decades, there are always glitches and itches. The last UTME, there were computer glitches, an examination that has been there forever. So that it's not surprising, and we have more of those kind of problems, even with the student loan. But then, for me, what all of this tells me, especially the reaction of a student in going after the loan and applying, is a confirmation all over again that a huge number of Nigerian students come from very terribly poor homes and require adequate support to be able to go through school. Now they are going after the loan because that is all the government has offered them. Whereas we have been asking that instead of a loan, what government needs to do is to fund education adequately and in that way ensure that the fees are drastically reduced in order to ensure that as many people as possible who are prepared to go to school are able to go to school regardless of their circumstances and all of that. But that has not been done. That's why you have these applications for the loan, and it's going to grow over the coming period. But then, does that mean that all of the problems that we have identified before now with the loan has evaporated? No. Like we have consistently said since last year, the student loan is not a novel idea for Nigeria. In 1978, it was in existence and collapsed. And across certain jurisdictions in the world, we have had the student loan. We still have them in some places. In the United States, is the biggest challenge for the Biden presidency, and even for any political party in the United States, because you have record level of indebtedness, which does not just have implication for American economy itself, but even for Americans themselves, in terms of their lives, in terms of their life choices, in terms of settling down, in terms of starting a family. And this is an economy where there is some guarantee, at least comparable to to Africa, of people going out of school and then getting a job. In Nigeria, people don't even get a job 5-7 years after graduation. So, and then when they get a job, then they earn peanuts. We are talking about minimum wage. Labor is on strike. So, what it means is that for those who have gotten the loan, once they graduate, regardless of the peanut they are going to get as workers after they have left school, a portion of that is going to go into paying a loan for as long as possible. Is that the kind of future that Nigerian students deserve? I don't think that's the future, because like we have explained, there are resources in this country to ensure that people don't have to go through this kind of indebtedness that the government has prepared for the future of Nigerian students. There are resources to provide adequate support, to fund public education.
All right, good. I like the fact that you said that this initiative is not a novel one, because it has been on before now, and then it's just fortunate that President Bola Tinubu actually see the need to revamp it and then bring it to as part of its own policy to revamp the Nigerian education system. But you made mention of something very germane, and I want to take you up on that. But two things now I want you to give more insights to. First and foremost, we're seeing a student's loan where less than a week of the portal being open, we see a huge amount of students showing interest in it. Do you think that the federal government have the capacity or what it takes to sustain this initiative, going by the fact that the government is always complaining about the paucity of funds? Okay, now you rightly made mention of it. NSC is on strike because government is saying they cannot afford to pay what the demands that NSC is bringing to bear. Rather, even the private sector is also saying that they can't afford to pay that minimum wage. Now, back to my question again, I'll put it in other form again. Do you think the federal government have what it takes to sustain this initiative? Let's say for as long as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu remain in office. That's one. And then secondly, you also made mention of the fact that when an average Nigerian student is out of school, you go through the mandatory 1 year NYSC, and by the time you're done, you're back to the labor market looking for jobs and all of that. For students who do not have the wherewithal to meet up with this loan, what become of them?
I don't think that the government has the capacity to sustain a student loan. However, I think that this country is rich enough to fund education adequately, even up to provision of free education at all levels. It might sound contradictory, but I will explain.
Okay.
What it takes to provide adequate funding to education is very simple. You need to have a national economy that is planned. That is a starting point. So that public education, therefore, is seen as a channel for national development. From that point of view, you are funding public education to grow the adequate manpower and skills required to grow the economy. And as you are doing that at the educational level, government is also making effort to provide the kind of jobs that are needed, so that students don't need to graduate and then suddenly you realize that there are no engineering jobs or there are no medical jobs. Because these things happen because of the planlessness, because of the lack of planning. Society is not planned. Everybody just do whatever they want. A student loan, on the other hand, it's like an attempt to try and spit on a raging fire. And it's not going to work. Second is that it's a non-interest loan at the moment.
Okay.
And the student loan across the world, they are not non-interest.
Non-interest, yes.
So that you should also expect that in a few years to come, that can change. And then banks come in and all of that, and then become an usurious loan. That means that the more you pay, the more you still have. And that's because what it takes, to finance a loan, it takes a lot of dedication. It also takes a lot of you need to have the infrastructure. Today, Nigeria doesn't even have adequate data. All throughout the period when we were talking about the bill itself, while it was still being discussed, the government could not even tell us what was the coverage area they were targeting. They couldn't even tell the number of students, undergraduate students, let alone the number of students who fall into the category of those. Everything was just done on the basis of a projection. And then the student loan also is more or less like something that has been done as an ideological, as an attempt to try and make the point, not necessarily because there's any reason to, that government does not need to have any business in public education. Okay. So from that point of view, it looks like something that is already primed, to fail in that kind of, and beyond government capacity. It's also the question of, does it really work? I've come across a student, somebody who is applying to the University of Ibadan, who is stuck right now because he has managed to pay the acceptance fee of about 50,000 naira. But when he was to make payment for school fees, it jumped up to about 300,000 or thereabout. And then he realized suddenly that you have to be an admitted student, matriculated student first and foremost, before you qualify for the student loan. So from that point of view, how does it really help anybody? Because those who are really able to take the loan, are able to apply, are those who are already matriculated students who can have reference from their faculty or from their department and who have records. But if you are a student who has, even if you have been given an admission letter, you are not yet in a so what that therefore means is that, just like we said before now, you are still going to have a good number of students who are not going to be able to enter into the university and colleges of education over the next few years because they don't have the resources to pay the high fees. Because side by side with the whole discussion about the student loan, we have had record level increases in school fees across the country. So that at the end of the day, this policy really is not working for the generality of the student populace that they say they want to assist. Rather, we are only going to have a few people who will benefit now, but then they are going to cry later by the time the full manifestation.
So which means that at the end of the day, for those who are not able to repay the loan, what becomes of them? They will have to cry. Because
they will, because I mean, according to the new law, some of the very terrible provisions of the previous bill have been removed.
Yes.
But then that doesn't mean that even if you are not going to put someone in jail for not
repaying the loan,
paying a loan, that the whole idea of having a loan on your neck will not be a burden on your life. You know, we have, and I've raised this question before, and we need to raise it again on national TV. What becomes of, you know, in this era of Japa, what becomes of a graduate who immediately after leaving school wants to travel abroad? How does the student loan, you know, how does it affect their visa application? How does it affect other areas of their life? Because you should not at any time think that the government will not come across those who become heavily indebted on the basis of this law. In fact, we should expect a situation whereby on the basis of an economic crunch or crisis, that the government sees, you know, the securing of the debt as something that can help to bring a lifeline back to the economy, and then they turn, you know, the beneficiaries of the student loan into enemies of Nigeria who they have to go after to secure the loan. Just the same way they use taxation to say that some people are not paying enough taxes and all of that. We should be that. Those are the kind of possibilities that are there in the coming period. Somebody could just come and use it in that way, so that at the end of the day, this is not the kind of future that I think that Nigerian students, Nigerian youth deserve, because this is a country that has a history, and we must be clear about it. Nigeria did not just come into existence yesterday. We've had a period where there was adequate funding of public education up to a level, and that is still possible. But what we need to do to achieve that really is to recalibrate the structure of Nigeria. The way Nigeria is modeled today as a profit-oriented capitalist society and capitalist governance cannot ensure provision of public education to the highest number of people. We need a socialist reconstruction of Nigeria, and on that basis, the wealth of the country can then be deployed to provide full funding to public education and, of course, to make life decent for everybody. That is possible.
All right. You've made a lot of salient points, you know, in your last submission, but unfortunately our time is up. We have to end it. But I'm just going to hold on to one thing that struck me while you were speaking, and I'm hoping Hansanda would get the opportunity to delve on that particular point sometime in the future, because you know, it's very important when you said at some point the government might begin to look at these debts on the heads of Nigerians as a way to, you know, cushion whatever else is going on in the economy of Nigeria generally, and that is further tightening the noose around the necks of somebody who is already suffocating with the noose around their necks, and that's scary.
Yes, it is.
If I'm to say it in the barest level of English, it is very, very scary. But at this point, I'm going to have to say thank you so much, Hassan, for coming on the show. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for this.
And this is what will also draw the curtain on today's edition of iBrand Daybreak. We will return on Friday with another edition. Until then, you stay positive. Be watchful around your environment. It's some crazy days that we've been having. My name is Uche Zoe.
I'm blessed. Amanusa, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation.